this. Joe Biden and Senator Kamala Harris both saying this week that the first thing they would do if elected president is roll back the president's tax cuts. Senator Mike Braun is with us, Indiana Republican, a man who knows a few things about business. Sir, you're very much plugged into small business. What would happen to small business in America, currently doing very well, if we roll back the tax package?
Well, it'd be a disaster. When my wife and I moved back to our hometown of Jasper, she's still running a business she's had for 41 years. Mine's 38 years old, and we're the, I think, largest or second largest small business that's still a member of the National Federation of Independent Businesses. All I can tell you is I've lived through a long stretch. Never has it been so conducive to owning and running a small business as what we've had since 2016. If you roll back that, Stu, go back to what started in the Clinton years, some of that even continued through the Bush years. It was driven home in its biggest way during Obama's term. That's mediocrity. It's wrapped with regulations, it suffocates enterprise, and it would be the worst possible thing for small business. And I can speak as an authority on it because I've been one my entire career.
What you frequently hear is that the tax package from President Trump was a giveaway to the rich, a giveaway to big corporations, and we didn't feel it. How do you feel about that?
Even for lower income earners, there's been an average of at least $1,000, if not more, per family in tax benefits. The only places that haven't had that participation would be high property tax states and state and local tax states like New York and California. They might have an argument, but that's because they tax their folks so heavily anyway. There's never been a better atmosphere because when tax reform went through, small business is the driver of new jobs. Almost all of the new ones are housed there, not in big companies. And I was so happy to see that we had a few people here that shepherded tax reform through to where it was going to benefit LLCs and sub-S's, where most of the jobs are created. It looked like, as usual, only big companies as C Corps were going to benefit. So thank goodness we've set the stage, and the results are real. We couldn't get out of a 1.5% trough of growth coming out of a deep recession. Those numbers should have been double or triple that. We didn't do it until the Tax Reform and Jobs Act came through in 17.
Senator, it's always a pleasure to have a business guy on the show because this is a business program. Please stay there for a second. I'm going to get back to you in just a moment. I've got to check the markets because we've seen some real movement just in the last few minutes. We're watching the latest on China trade for you. President Trump says China is coming here to make a trade deal. There's a new report from Reuters says on Friday, China sent a message to the White House. They wanted to backtrack on almost every aspect of the deal they'd already agreed to. Then the president tweeted out that China is coming over this week to make a deal. Maybe that's why, a little bit of optimism from the... Maybe that's why we're up 100 points as we speak, and we've just shot straight up. Any bright ideas on this one?
You know, boy, what a turnaround.
Yes.
I thought the markets were going to suffer today because of what's happening. But there's a really super interesting trend going on right now. Manufacturers are moving out of China into places like Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia. We're talking LG, Samsung, Philips, Pegatron, which assembles iPhones. So they're moving Intel. They're moving away from China, given the trade fight and higher costs, into other places in Asia to manufacture.
They're protecting their supply chain.
That's correct.
What they're doing.
That's right.
But they suggest, therefore, that there is going to be these tariffs imposed, that there is a trade war. So why we're up 107 points?
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't seen what's going on here, but we're up 110 pieces. OK, hold on a second. Sarah Sanders reportedly made some comments about China trade, which implied some optimism. I don't know exactly what it is. I'm going to find that for you. But apparently those comments from Sarah Sanders, the White House press secretary, that made this market turnaround happen. Apparently that is the case.
That's really interesting.
I'll get it for you, I promise. Right now we're up 115 points. OK, Sarah Sanders said, we have received an indication that China wants to make a deal. OK?
Wow.
That just came to us.
Yes.
An indication that China wants to make a deal. I'm glad we're on top of this because it has moved the market.
That's
big
what's
time.
Look at it going. Here it
Big
goes.
time. Now we're up 120 points. We're off, we're running. I want to bring in Senator Mike Braun again Senator, what do you make of this? I mean, we're all over the place on covering China trade. Are we now supposed to be optimistic that a deal can happen?
Stu, I love to hear that, because when businesses went to China in the first place, it was for the extreme cost savings. If you really went there heavily, you weren't hedging your bets. You're still dealing with an autocratic political system. So what the whole negotiation with China has done, businesses ought to hedge their bets, not have all their eggs in the Chinese basket, because it's not healthy. That's even a better sign that we're going to get something done with China. And look what just taking them on has done. None of that dynamic was occurring before President Trump had the nerve to experience some short-term pain for long-term gain. And the best way we could hedge our bets is if companies that have put a lot of stake into the Chinese economy go places where there's better behavior. That'll teach the Chinese to play by the rules.
Senator Braun, I'm glad we had you on the spot today. The perfect timing of what's going on here. We always appreciate you being with us, Senator. Good to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
I get it back.